Hey everyone, the Vegan Preppers here to talk to you all about kind of a little bit of what's new with us, but we're looking at some second wave prepping specifically. What are we thinking about? What are we looking at doing right now? And this video is definitely information packed, so you might want to get some paper out to take a little bit of notes because we're going to be coming at you with some information and hopefully you find it useful. So first of all though, we're going to start off and ask Mr. Vegan Prepper, what's new with you?
Things. I just finished my marathon 2 weeks ago now. And 2 weeks ago? Yeah, wait. Yes, 2 weeks ago. 2-ish weeks ago. I don't know what day it is. Yes, finished my marathon 2 weeks ago and kind of recovering right now. Ended up a little bit more banged up at the end of it than I wanted to. Knee is pretty sore, but that will pass. So just kind of giving myself a much needed break after 2 years of training, and I'm going to be transitioning into some different kind of training, more total body stuff than just running. So that should be fun. And aside from that, I finally got my blacksmith forge set up.
Yay!
Kathy got that for me for my birthday.
40th birthday.
40 years old now.
Big deal. Well, I mean, you had already saved up like kind of a lot of the money, and then I just basically funneled like everything I had coming in and from my business, and I sold my soul a little bit, and then we got the forge. So
it's been a long time coming. So
yes.
4 months since I took my blacksmithing class, and just been obsessing on YouTube over, all the videos. So now I get to actually make stuff. So
I know I've watched so many blacksmithing videos, probably as many like herbal videos as you've watched.
Still not as much as you watched me blacksmith in Skyrim. That's a lot.
I watched so much blacksmithing in Skyrim. Oh my gosh. Real blacksmithing is way more interesting. Anyway.
Slower though.
Yes.
More expensive. My very first project was to make a pair of tongs so that I could make more projects, and that went well. They broke the first time I used them. Probably didn't do something correct on that. But it was a good learning experience, and I did make a functioning pair of tongs out of some crappy old rebar, which was apparently crappy because it broke in half. And then without tongs, I managed to make my little first leaf, which is very beginner, but hey, it's beginner. So
it's really cool. I like
that's
it.
pretty much all I'm doing right now. That and working much.
Yeah, well, that's awesome though. I'm so glad that you have your forge. That makes me so happy. Developing some new skills and all that. Make ourselves less and less and less disposable for like SHTF apocalyptic situations. It's like, no, I know herbal medicine and he's a blacksmith. But anyway, and so yeah, I guess for me, just business, right? Business has been taking off, and it's increasing more right now as the holidays are approaching, so that's awesome. And now I've got like ideas for some new business stuff coming up. Like another business start. What am I doing to myself? I don't know. I don't want to share about that yet. But yeah, that's exciting. And so like in the learning and development stages of that, because it's not anything I've ever tried to do legally is what I want to say, but I don't mean to that I've been doing it illegally. It's just I don't know the regulations, so I need to learn a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, that's exciting, kind of moving forward, and yeah. Excellent. Awesome.
Cool.
So I was wondering if everybody appreciates our new backdrop. We're trying to find like a better place to film. So we just need to get a backdrop because there's coloring on the wall. It's just like, this is a clean wall in our house that we could film in front of. Actually, no, there's crayon on the wall.
We have a 2-year-old, so every wall is ruined. She's gonna have to repaint the house when she moves out.
It's like, cause I'm trying to think of a place that doesn't have like a bunch of stuff behind us, you know? So anyway, we're going to figure it out. We might just end up needing to get a backdrop of some kind for my studio, which is where we have been filming. But yeah. All right, cool. So all of that is, I guess that's enough for kind of the personal intro chatty stuff. So
COVID second wave. So I don't know if anybody was surprised that this is, you know, big news now. You know, I'm not saying that COVID's not a problem. I'm just saying that the news really likes to make it a really, really big problem, and people were starting to get bored hearing about it. So now there is the second wave.
yeah, well, we got to distract ourselves with the election for a while.
Yes, we did. So
yeah.
now we're in second wave. And again, I'm not saying it's not serious. I know a lot of people have been sick. A lot of people have died. And I'm not making light of that in any way. I just get irritated with how it's reported, I guess.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. Like we've talked about it before, right? They make money off of people's fear.
Yeah.
And so they do everything they can to stoke people's fear. And that is... I get angry about that because they're basically making money off of all of those people who have been sick and who are dying, and they're like capitalizing on that, and that's just not cool. But also, even with that, if we think about like if they were reporting literally every single death of like other things, you know, traffic deaths or deaths of heart disease or whatever, then it would also be thousands of people a day. So that's, again, not to say that it's not a big deal. It's just like, as they're reporting, I don't know, they're really shining a spotlight on it because it's what people are interested in right now. People are not interested in the fact that still over 600,000 people die every year of heart disease. That's way more than we've lost so far to COVID, and that's every single year. So I don't know.
Yeah. At any rate.
Anyway, sorry.
The second wave does create problems beyond, you know, people getting sick. There's a pretty significant chance that there will be more restrictions put into place.
Mm-hmm. Actually, some states are already starting to restrict again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've had a real big problem with the restrictions because when COVID first hit, and they closed stuff down, it was for the purpose of allowing the healthcare system to get fortified so that it could deal with the fallout of this new disease. So they shut everything down, and then for that purpose, and then at some point the purpose changed to let's just shut everything down forever. So businesses are just starting to get opened back up in a lot of places. Now they're going to get shut back down. But it creates issues for food supply stuff, supplies of all kinds, and for, you know, people's finances and people's businesses. So, you know, with the news of second wave happening, we kind of need to all just be a little bit more prepared. Going into that, knowing what we know from the last time, that, you know, things like you couldn't go to the store and buy cases of things. You just couldn't buy toilet paper. It's a problem for us because we buy cases of things because we have 5 people in the house. We eat a lot of bananas. You try to go to Sprouts during the first wave of COVID and buy a case of bananas, and they were like, you can't buy a case of bananas. We got to have enough bananas for everybody. It's like, but I could still go and buy as many bananas off the shelf as I wanted to. I could have bought 10 cases worth off the shelf as long as they weren't in a box. But
then we went and they were like 25 cents a pound, remember? Or were you with me when that happened? They were all turning brown and they were on clearance. And they're like 20, because nobody bought bananas. Probably because we had been buying cases of bananas and suddenly they had a surplus because they wouldn't let us buy our cases of bananas. Like, we were the reason they had too many bananas. Probably. Because I don't know how many people buy cases of bananas. Like, how many people are freaky, weird, plant-based vegans like we are? But no, that was funny, and it was like, well, okay, they're all turning brown. Well, they're basically ready to freeze now. So
perfect for us.
I went ahead and bought a whole bunch of them, and then we still just, you know, had them in our freezer. But gosh.
Anyway, we want to try to get a little bit of supply, some stuff before those restrictions go in place again at stores.
Yep.
you know, if you see some toilet paper, might not be a bad idea to buy some, because TP apocalypse may happen again. How much are people pooping? I don't know. It's crazy.
I don't know.
So you guys keep that in mind. You know, just so that we fortify ourselves. You know, we don't need to go out and go crazy and buy, you know, a million packs of toilet paper. We don't need to be greedy or selfish. But if you're used to buying things in cases, this would be a great time to buy a case. You know, make sure you're supplied for any upcoming restrictions. And so we're looking into a company called Azure Standard. It's a huge bulk supplier, and they happen to have, they call them
drop points.
Drop,
I think
drop
is
points,
it a drop
yeah.
point?
Drop points, and it's basically rather than them mailing it directly to you, they ship it to their local locations, and then you pick the stuff up there. So they happen to have a drop point here in the valley where we live, so it gives us an option to buy bulk items that are sometimes difficult to find locally, because we do buy a lot of things in bulk. We buy our oatmeal in 25-pound bags, we buy our wheat in 50-pound bags, and we buy 25-pound bags of cashews, and the stuff that we use a lot of. We get a little bit of savings, and it's nice to have the big quantities that we use, because we use a lot of food.
Yeah.
We have 2 teenage boys and a 40-year-old man in training, and
yeah, an athlete. You're training. Yeah.
So we go through a lot of food, so it's nice to have some supplies. So yeah, that's a place you guys can check out and see if they have a drop point in your areas. One other thing that I was thinking about for going into a second wave, and even the flu season, is we're coming into the holiday season, and it's a lot of fun to eat a lot of junk, and you know, people are always talking about having to get rid of their holiday weight, but something to think about is that beyond just putting on weight this season, we're putting a lot of inflammation into our body with processed foods and sugary sweet stuff, and you know, all the junk food that comes with the holiday season. With immune system stuff, it's really good to bolster your system by eating good food, and maybe avoiding some of the cakes and cookies and candies that are readily available this time of year, and just so our immune systems are stronger.
Yeah.
Maybe eat an apple instead of a cookie. Have a bell pepper. Little Simpsons shout out there. 25 years ago. So in talking about inflammation, a great anti-inflammatory food is turmeric. Now, we have switched from buying powdered turmeric because there's been a lot of question as to the purity and the safety of powdered turmeric. Apparently, some significant amounts of lead have been found in it because lead is heavy and it looks the same as turmeric in powdered form, so it's a yellow substance. Yeah. So lead gets put into the turmeric to bolster the weight so that they are selling a heavier tainted product, which is terrifying and horrible that they've literally found poison in a food that's supposed to help your body. So yeah. We have switched to what form is this?
It is, well, it's still turmeric root, but instead of being a powder, it's chunks. And we get this from Mountain Rose Herbs. Now, you know, it isn't necessarily across the board, the lead thing. It's just, you don't know. Like, how do you know unless they specifically say we are third-party tested for lead contamination or whatever, and trying to find that information is very difficult. So I happen to just get this from Mountain Rose Herbs. This is a 1-pound bag of turmeric root, and it's like kind of dried chunky form, and it's $10 for this. And then you can use this kind of a long time. So for me personally, I tend to use it more when I'm making us chai, like golden chai. I put a little bit of this into our chai is like our anti-inflammatory powerhouse. Really, when you think of chai, like Indian food in general. It's so powerfully good for you with all of the spices. The spices are like key and so medicinal. And a lot of these blends that we think of as yummy things that we eat are actually based in Ayurvedic medicine, which is like, you know, like 6,000 years old or something like that. And so like they know some things, you know, and it's just an extremely, you know, healthful way to take it. You know, you can make a golden milk with this. You can do, I mean, I would probably powder it myself, like in a coffee grinder if I were kneading it as a powder. But then also we buy fresh turmeric root, and you can find it at Whole Foods, and it's, you know, kind of pricey. It's like $14 a pound, but you can also find it in a non-organic form in the international market. Like that's where I find it too. We can get pretty big packages of fresh turmeric root. It's almost like ginger. It just comes like in a root form, or it's not technically a root, it's a rhizome, but that's like a whole other like botanical lecture we're not going to get into. We call it a root, just like we call pomegranate arrows pomegranate seeds, even though they're not seeds. But anyway, so it's a rhizome, and it comes in this rhizome form, and you can get quite a lot of it. And then what I do is I just sort of scrub it and clean it when I get home, and I chop it into little manageable pieces and freeze it. And then when I have a recipe that calls for turmeric, a lot of times I'll just toss the frozen chunks into my blender and blend it up. And then I pour that into the recipe. You know, if it's like a curry or a soup or whatever. So it ends up being pretty easy actually. And then, you know, we're avoiding the powder, but still getting a lot of good turmeric in our diet. So
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Is that it? Or you got...
Is that it? Oh, that was it for your part. We're trying to be more organized now. So yeah, like, so as far as more second wave prepping, so yeah, you were talking about, yeah, trying to, for us, it's going to be trying to get our cases of food before we can't get them anymore, which is definitely a concern of mine. Cause like you said, it isn't even so much for like the prepping. Like I'm not necessarily even trying to like do my 3-month or whatever year-long food stash at this point. I'm trying to figure out how we get our groceries.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're supposed to not be going to the store, but then you can't buy any more than like 4 cans of beans at a time. It's like,
what am I supposed to eat?
What, like, how are we going to eat? So it's kind of like trying. So we have been already, my working pantry is already bigger because I've already been like literally every time I go to Whole Foods now, I buy 8 cans of beans because that's all you're allowed to buy. And so whenever I go, that's what I get. And then, you know, various other things, but also stocking up on dried beans and things like that. So I would say definitely look into getting things like dried beans, which is not something that a lot of people are going crazy to stock up on, you know, but especially if you've got an Instant Pot, like why not? Get yourself some dried beans. Actually, a lot of the vegan stuff is stuff that not a lot of people are stocking up on. So like a lot of like tofu, tempeh, things like that, like you can get that stuff. And so that's what we were noticing even at the height of the first wave, when like stuff was out everywhere and you couldn't get anything. We pretty much were able to get everything that we wanted, but then you're only allowed to get 1 or 2 of each item. And it's like, come on. like I have a family. So I had to go to I was going to the store like 4 or 5 times a week. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, so, but for more prepping, so I guess we kind of talked about turmeric. I'm definitely continuing in earnest my herbal studies and my studies into clinical herbalism and really how to use it specifically to address the problems that we have going on right now. So as far as specifically for COVID itself, obviously not much is known yet. As far as herbal treatments or herbal help for that, because, you know, we just, like, nobody really knows anything. So, but what we do know is that there is a lot of really good immune boosting herb stuff out there. So this is what I wanted to talk about really too, is that we got a visitor. Ginger and garlic. So I already mentioned ginger, but ginger and garlic are actually both really powerful immune boosters and stimulants, which are very good for you, and kind of famous. And so kind of eating these things regularly to keep your body healthy is great, but ginger itself is specifically shown to be very helpful against coronaviruses, or like rhinoviruses, like colds. Or wait, shoot. Now I'm blanking if the rhinovirus is the flu or not. The coronaviruses are the flus, or I mean the colds, and then rhinovirus is the flu.
Coronaviruses are colds, yes.
Yes. Okay, sorry. Anyway. Okay, because there's like some specific things to look at, because herbal medicine is, it is very specific. So like elderberries are specifically effective against flu viruses. They're not as effective against cold viruses, although they still do boost immune response. But the problem is, because a lot of what kills people with COVID is the body's own immune response. It's that cytokine storm where it starts overproducing, I don't know, whatever, antibodies or something, whatever, in the lungs, and people essentially die because they can't breathe anymore because of their own body's overwhelming inflammatory response to the virus. So because elderberry increases the production of cytokines, which is how it works to boost your immune system, it said it's dangerous for COVID. So I don't know if that means that it increases the cytokine storm or not, because it's like an inflammatory response anyway, but people just don't know that in general. But it's also possible that it's not very effective against cold or COVID anyway, because it might not be the right virus. And so specifically though, ginger and star anise are shown to be very effective towards cold viruses, or have been shown in the past. So get yourself some ginger. You can do exactly what I said, like with the turmeric, you can scrub it, cut it up, no need to peel either one of those. Freeze it, and then do the same kind of thing. You could just like blend it up in your blender and then heat it on the stove to make like a really quick, almost instant tea without having to deal with peeling and grating. And then just strain it before you drink it, and you can have yourself a ginger tea. You can do stuff like that. Like you can have it on hand though, like in your soups and your curries, whatever Asian food, add your ginger, and have it on hand as something that you just have in your body. So we're probably going to be eating a ton of Asian food, Indian food, like get all those spices into us, like in, you know, a really powerful way, the garlic and everything. And then star anise as well, which is included actually in a lot of chai recipes. But one caution I would say with star anise is, it is a very good herb and it treats colds, specifically coronavirus colds. However, there is some concern because there's a star anise, like the one that's medicinal and good. I'm trying to remember where it comes from. I think it comes from China. And it's a traditional Chinese medicine. And so again, it's a system of medicine that's been around for like a billion years, and they know a lot of stuff, right? So, but the problem is that it has crossed potentially with a Japanese variation of star anise, which is not medicinal, as toxic. So for that reason, they say don't ever give star anise to children. But I think it just also depends on your source. Again, like for instance, I would trust star anise from Mountain Rose Herbs. They're just really good, and I really trust their products. But star anise is great, and you can get it in chais, and chai is a great thing with your turmeric to make it extra anti-inflammatory. And so that's a great thing to kind of incorporate in your diet, like a nightly golden chai. Probably be a great thing.
Yeah, it looks cool. Yeah,
it does. It's one of the coolest herbs ever. I love that. I actually I tried to grow it, and none of it came up. I'm very depressed about it. Maybe it still will. Maybe it hasn't cooled down enough yet. It's still hot outside.
It's so hot.
Why is it hot? It's like November 15th. Anyway. Okay, so garlic, ginger, star anise, with cautions on the star anise, but garlic and ginger, whatever, do as much as you can.
More garlic. As
often as you can, yes, right? Garlic, garlic, garlic. We love garlic. But yes, there are options. But like one of my friends, her husband's allergic to garlic. So he can't have it. So ginger is a...
man.
Right? So ginger is a great one if you can't have garlic, you know. But I mean, you know, it exists. So I would say, actually, honestly, my number one would have to be ginger. If I were treating something. And even though I'm not allowed to treat anything, just drink some
officially.
Ginger. Drink some legally. Okay, anyway. Then my final thing, because as far as prepping goes, looking at the stuff that we need. And so like a good source of vitamin D, I guess, would be great to get. I would say stock up on vitamin D if you can, in whatever form you can get it. And if you happen to live somewhere where you can get outside and get vitamin D, be outside at least 15-20 minutes a day. Make sure you're getting plenty if you are Caucasian. I actually don't know how long you have to be outside if you have darker skin.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm sorry I don't know that. I just know for myself. It's like 15 or 20 minutes a day with my Caucasian skin. But I'm pretty sure with darker skin you have to be out longer. So just research that. I'm sorry I don't know what that is. But yeah, get the vitamin D from the sun, stock up on it in supplement form. So that's one of the things you're seeing, that a huge number of the people who are perishing are low in vitamin D. And this is, again, not just like blogs, this is like actual data that's coming out, what they're knowing, what they're seeing so far. And then also zinc is incredibly important for the body. Quercetin is important for the absorption of zinc. Quercetin actually keeps zinc inside the cells. And so quercetin is found in a ton of plant foods. So just eat tons of plant foods, and then all the zinc that you get will be like carried in your cells where it belongs, rather than just like in your bloodstream and then just like disappearing. So quercetin is very important for the absorption and the keeping of the zinc. But then a source of zinc would be great. And so if you can't find zinc, because zinc is very hard to find, I was trying to think of an alternative, and I remembered one of my friends had actually talked to me about a little passage from this book, The Gift of Healing Herbs. And I wanted to go ahead and quickly read this passage to you, because I thought it was kind of like, oh wow, because we're hearing about this a lot right now. First of all, this book is insanely good. So this is one of my absolute favorites. This is out of my entire herbal library, this is in my top 2. So anyway, it's thick, very full of very good things. Okay, so here's a less well-known use of sage. My mother lost her sense of smell, and with it most of her enjoyment of food. I investigated and was told to try giving her zinc supplements, as zinc deficiency can sometimes be the cause of this problem. I decided to recommend sage tea as her zinc supplement. She drank 1 cup of sage tea daily, made by infusing 1 teaspoon of dried sage in boiled water for about 10 minutes. She had been suffering with this loss of smell for over a year, and doctors had been unable to help her or determine the cause. After 3 weeks of sage tea, her sense of smell returned, never to disappear again. Hooray. So yes, sage is incredibly good. It's good for sore throats too, amongst many other things. One thing though, cautionary, it will dry up breast milk. So this is not a good idea if you're a nursing mom. Sorry. So like, actually, so it doesn't really work for me because I'm a nursing mom still. So I can't really do this. Now, if I started coming down with like COVID type symptoms, and especially if I lost my sense of smell, which is one of the symptoms that people report. And like my friend and I were talking, so she's also studying herbalism, and she and I were discussing, where she said that it's probably because the body's using up its zinc stores to fight the infection. And so you start losing your sense of smell, lose your sense of taste, whatever. So that could be a sign that you are deficient in zinc, and to start upping your zinc intake. So if I started having those kinds of symptoms, then Sage would just have to get over it. Actually, her name is Sage. That's funny. So I just started taking some sage, and you know, there goes my milk. So, and that's fine. Like, but that's what I would do. So I just wanted to share that. If you can't find zinc supplements, maybe try Mountain Rose Herbs, or even get on Amazon and look up organic bulk sage. You'll probably find either like Frontier Co-op or Star West Botanicals. You can get yourself a nice giant bag of sage. If you're using only a teaspoon at a time, it'll last you a really long time. And so that's kind of like what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was like really long. Cue mom lecture mode. So we joke about in the house. The boys all the time. I'm like, cue mom lecture mode, and Thad or Elliot will be like, oh, like to whoever did it. Anyway.
Let me pull up a chair.
Yes, exactly. Just sit down. This is gonna take a while. I just have so much wisdom.
It's true.
Anyway, yeah, so we're just trying to be useful. So I'm trying to think of, yeah, like I said, just alternatives.
Yeah.
You know, when you can't find what you need, what's another way to get it that hopefully not everyone knows about? Hopefully there's not going to be some run on sage. You can find sage, you know.
Yeah. So I guess we can close out with a little vegan moment.
Now what?
All this COVID stuff. I don't know if you guys have heard. There's been a mutation, and
oh yeah,
it was centered around mink, and specifically a whole bunch of mink in cages. There's been so many issues over the last several years with diseases and sicknesses and contamination coming from animal agriculture, and even COVID has been traced back to people eating weird foods, weird uncooked foods.
Bat.
Yeah. Why do people eat bats? It's weird, but
just.
But animal agriculture is extremely dirty, and we are just at the tip of the iceberg of all the destruction that we're going to see from this stuff. So, if you guys are concerned about COVID, be concerned about your food sources, you know, and it's never been a better time to go vegan.
Yes, and stop the demand.
Yep.
Stop keeping animals in these conditions, and even if you don't agree about, you know, the ethics of veganism itself, that's fine, but even without personally adopting the ethics, you have to see how stupid it is to continually have thousands upon thousands upon thousands and even millions of animals trapped in cages together or directly next to each other. Again, the scale, I think people don't realize the scale of how many creatures this is. As we were talking, it's like over 70 billion animals are slaughtered every single year for human consumption. And that is not even including all of the mink that are in cages like in Denmark because of fur, but also because of false eyelashes. Like they're turned into false eyelashes. Like, you can't have like plasticky ones. You know, like, okay, sorry.
It's entirely unnecessary.
It's like
it's something that we can do without.
So yeah, there's a mutation of COVID that happened in the mink and then has been shown to go back to humans. And it's like, so then the mink are being culled. And it's just like, so people are really sad and up in arms about it, but it's like they were going to die. What did you think was going to happen to them? They were going to die anyway. So it's like, they're like all the farmers that had to shoot their pigs because their pigs couldn't get slaughtered and go to market. They're so sad because they have to actually be the ones that do the slaughtering now, rather than just send them off in trucks, you know, out of sight, out of mind. I don't know. Sorry. You're right. Vegan moment. Oh my gosh. Cue vegan mom lecture mode. Oh gosh. But yeah, you're right. You think of the last however many years. Did you people, because I know like when we were not vegan, I don't think I really made the connection.
Nope.
Like, swine flu.
It wasn't just pigs. It was farmed pigs in terrible, dirty conditions.
And they
terribly dirty stuff.
Got sick and it passed to people.
Yep.
And that's kind of like the next, weren't they saying like the next pandemic is going to be coming from agriculture, animal agriculture? But then even what, like bird flu?
Chickens.
Like all this.
It's not like pigeons on the street. That's, yeah, they call it bird flu because they don't want to call it your chicken breast might kill you.
Yeah, it's like, it's ludicrous. And it's not really any surprise to me, honestly, that much death has consequences to us, you know.
Yeah. It can only go on for so long. And all it takes is a decision to make that demand go away.
Right.
So.
Yes, and it's very difficult at first.
Yep.
Your whole body screams against you because your whole body is used to that. So, gosh, well, I guess, yeah, why not? I have a theory that it's the gut bacteria, because this is something that's really helped me as I am losing weight still and regaining my health, or actually finding it for the first time. I've never been skinny my whole life. I've always been fat. But being able to learn about the fact that there's a gut-brain connection, and this is true. There's neurons in your intestines. This is like new science that they're figuring this out. So that a lot of times when you have a craving, it's not really you, it's the bacteria in your gut crying out for the food that makes them live. And the bacteria that are in your gut are in your gut because of what you eat. So your gut is incredibly adaptable, and whatever you eat, eventually you will adapt, and you're going to colonize your gut to digest whatever it is that you consume. So when you first switch to a vegan diet, that's why a lot of times you end up with a lot of bloating and a lot of issues, because you don't have enough of the gut bacteria that digest things like whole grains and beans, and especially beans and all of that. But you end up with cravings for things like meat and all of that, and you're just like, I'm going crazy, I can't, like, I have to get this stuff, because it's not you, it's because the bacteria in your gut, which are crying out for that food, because if they don't get that food, it's going to kill them. And that is why the cravings themselves are so intense and so powerful, and you feel like you're an addict and you can't resist that food, because it is truly, it feels like a life or death moment, because it is a life or death moment for those bacteria in your gut. But as you are moving away from that, and then the composition of your gut bacteria changes, then the cravings disappear. And it's because you no longer have these little creatures in your belly screaming for these foods, and you thought it was you, but it was them. And so it's just like completely fascinating to me that exists, and that is true. And that's why I think, like we were talking even just today, that like for a few months into my vegan journey, it was really hard, because I'd smell the cooking bacon at Costco, and it'd be like, oh, the bacon, like, oh, I want the bacon, you know, because it's always the bacon. It's like, oh, it smells like my mouth would water, and I'd be like, oh, pour me again of the bacon, you know. And it was just so funny how, though, one day I was going through Costco and the smell started up, and I was like, oh no, like I'm at Costco at bacon time again, or you know what I mean? And it was funny because I expected to have that same response, and so it wasn't something that I really registered at first, but that actually what I was feeling inside of myself, my response was revulsion. Like I actually almost was like I felt like throwing up, like I had a gag reflex, because the smell of the bacon was making me literally physically ill. And now thinking back to that, I think, and it wasn't like I watched extra slaughterhouse footage, or like really like, you know, buckled up my vegan reasons or whatever. And I think, honestly, looking back, it probably was about the time that bacteria was gone from my gut by now. My microbiome had shifted, and that now there was no part of me that was like, yummy, because it was gone.
It's no longer food.
Right, exactly. Like, so this is no longer what I digest. And even to this day, the smell of cooking meat is disgusting to me. And again, it was not like I grew up in Texas, okay? I was a steak girl. I was not born a vegan. I never thought in a million years that I would ever get to this point. But here I am.
Here we are.
Yeah. You never thought you would get to this point. I mean, look at your shirt, right? Which still is vegan, by the way. We don't have to get into why.
It's a whole different video.
The Second Amendment is vegan. Haha, we should make that video. Vegans for the Second Amendment. Anyway, all right, okay. All right, we're gonna go now.
Yeah.
That's it. For real. Stop it. Find me a puzzle. Okay. Oh yeah, like, subscribe. As always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.